Let's try to negotiate an end to this nightmare that never needed to happen.
Yeah, that's exactly what Neville Chamberlain did.
I'll
Shut up. Just the dumbest, like, what are you, 80 IQ, Neville Chamberlain? That is the one and only lesson of history, that appeasement never works and aggression is always right. Why don't you take some of the lessons from...
Appeasement doesn't work with a dictator. You obviously don't know Vladimir Putin.
Appeasement, we appease dictators all over the planet right now. We overthrow democratically elected governments and prop up dictators. What are you even talking about?
All right, tomorrow, President Donald Trump will meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska, not Russia. And that upcoming meeting has renewed the debate over how to end the Russia-Ukraine war. So you just saw comedian Dave Smith go at it with human rights activist Sir William Browder. We have more of that debate to show you. But first, Cenk, is there even an easy solution here?
No, there definitely isn't. I'm not even sure which way I come out. And I know that Dave was right on every point of the debate we're gonna show you in a little bit. There's more. He's right that anytime you talk about not going to war, they're like, oh, Neville Chamberlain, appeasement. It's the same talking points. And that guy keeps accusing Dave Smith of not being a serious person and not knowing the facts, and then he never shows any facts. All he does is his dumb talking points I've heard my whole life, like, oh, you don't know, he is a dictator, we should get rid of all dictators. Dave Smith obliterates him on that. We're gonna show that to you in a second. But in terms of the main question, should we keep sending military aid and weapons to Ukraine? We have that up on the live chat. It shows live at 6 o'clock every day. We have it up on tyt.com, and I don't know about that. We're gonna give you both sides, so let's hear the rest of the story.
Absolutely. Okay, so earlier in the debate, Smith did explain his point of view on the conflict, so let's take a look and see what he had to say.
It is undeniable that the West did a lot to provoke this conflict. It's just undeniable. Our CIA director through all of Joe Biden's term, Bill Burns, was the one who wrote the Niet means Niet memo, who warned Condoleezza Rice, do not keep pushing in this direction. And we continued pushing regardless. It's resulted in this catastrophe. Like I said before, Piers, I'm not absolving Vladimir Putin of any responsibility. He launched this war and he's responsible for the destruction. But for God's sake, Piers, you start this at the beginning, asking like, but what's the actual plan? Like, what's the military plan for how you can evict the Russians? Nobody here has anything. So what do you want to do? Let's try to negotiate an end to this so people stop dying. It is the best case scenario. No one really has anything. No one has anything other than maybe we could keep sending weapons and money in, and this slow grind of people dying will continue. And Vladimir Putin will then at the end of that take the territory he wants. Let's try to negotiate an end to this nightmare that never needed to happen.
Later, Browder stated that he believes harsh sanctions could end the war, but Smith just kept ripping into him. So here's that.
You obviously are not educated on the issues. The reason why Vladimir Putin is at war is for his own personal survival. He's not going to back off from this war to then appease him at this moment, to give him Ukraine is just a complete...
You're not giving him anything. It's not yours to give. He took it and you can't get it back. Deal with that reality. Sorry.
Yeah, you could impose crippling sanctions on him. You could give the Ukrainians the
sanctions, more sanctions.
And then you could negotiate from a position of strength. You don't negotiate from a position of weakness, which is what's being...
There's Joe Biden's plan. We could end the war with sanctions.
You don't have to call it Joe Biden's.
We're years...
You don't have to call it Joe Biden's anything. You don't have to politicize logic.
I'm not politicizing anything.
Yeah,
I'm saying this
Joe
is
Biden. You're saying Joe Biden.
Okay, now let me respond. Yeah. Yes, he was, I'm not sure if you're familiar, he was the former president of the United States, and this was his plan. We ran this experiment. It did not work. It led to hundreds of thousands of people more dying, and now we're here.
Okay, so what is Trump planning to discuss with Putin tomorrow? I don't know. I don't think Trump knows either, because in typical Trump fashion, he is giving mixed signals. On the one hand, he stated today that the US is through with sending money to Ukraine. Take a look.
We have great rare earth. We made that as payment for all of the money that we've spent so foolishly in Ukraine. We've spent $350 billion Now, Europe spent $1 billion. That's a lot of money. They spent $100 billion. That's a lot of money. But we shouldn't be spending a lot more money than them, and they understand that. And I think that's maybe why we're not spending money anymore. We're not spending any money. They're paying us for everything. So people are shocked when they hear it. They don't even understand. They don't even write about it. But we're not spending money, but we are spending a lot of time trying to get the war solved.
What is he talking? He said we have great rare earth. That's not a real sentence. So also Trump has repeatedly stated that Russia could take some Ukrainian territory as part of a ceasefire deal. Russia currently controls about 20% of Ukraine's land. Last week, Trump said this. He said, you're looking at territory that's been fought over for 3.5 years. You know, a lot of Russians have died. A lot of Ukrainians have died. So we're looking at that, but we're actually looking to get some back, some swapping. It's complicated. We're going to get some back. We're going to get some switched. There will be some swapping of territories to the betterment of both, okay? But on the other hand, NBC News just reported the following. Trump told European leaders during a call on Wednesday that he does not intend to discuss any possible divisions of territory when he meets with Putin. So Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy, he also is sending a lot of mixed messages. Over the weekend, he stated Ukrainians will not gift their land to the occupier. But later, Zelenskyy changed his tone a little bit. Zelenskyy told reporters this week that territorial exchanges are a very complex issue that cannot be separated from security guarantees for Ukraine. Trump has stated Putin will face, quote, very severe consequences if he does not agree to a ceasefire. Not sure what those consequences are. Trump has also said that he'll know if a ceasefire is even possible after just the first 2 minutes of meeting with Putin in Alaska, because he is just that good. It seems that what Trump really wants for Putin is to negotiate directly with Zelenskyy. He said this, he said, the next meeting will be with Zelenskyy and Putin, or Zelenskyy and Putin and me. I'll be there if they need, but I want to have a meeting set up between the two leaders. However, Putin is refusing to meet with Zelenskyy, and the proposed Trump buffer doesn't seem to be swaying him in that direction. Cenk, it seems inevitable to me, unfortunately, that Ukraine is going to lose some of its original territory to Russia at the end of all of this. It's been almost 4 years. We have seen the devastation that Russia has created in Ukraine, and unfortunately, at the end of it all, I think that Russia will probably just gain a little bit of land. I don't like that, but unless Putin can say that he got something out of slaughtering all of the young men of Russia, he's not going to stop doing what he's doing. All of this was completely avoidable. None of this needed to happen. Putin thinks he's some sort of Russian czar who just needs to expand the territory lest he die in disgrace. This was all very ego-driven, regardless of whatever justification is actually being given for the Ukrainian invasion. And Cenk, before I get to you, something else to consider. Trump could potentially offer Russia the use of natural resources. What did he say? We have great rare earth. Ukraine does have a lot of mineral deposits, coal, iron ore, titanium. It's also got oil and natural gas. It makes sense that Russia would want a piece of that between Trump and Putin, and they could agree that Ukraine needs to give some of that up in exchange for peace in their own country. So what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so a lot of truth on all sides here. So let's break it down. So first off, Trump has weirdo problems here because he wanted the rare earth minerals from Ukraine. That made the negotiations more difficult, not less difficult. Like it was us just butting in and going, hey, what are we getting out of this? So we got to get lithium for Teslas, etc. So that was bad. And he's constantly flip-flopping. Okay, there's nothing we can do about Russia. I'm gonna kill you, Russia, if you don't do something. He just back and forth, drives me crazy. Overall though, his policy is better than Biden's. So if your feelings are hurt by that, let me explain. Because Joe Biden was not trying to get to peace. He barely engaged in any kind of negotiations, didn't push forward negotiations, didn't incentivize negotiations, and partly because he was trying to bleed Russia dry for a number of reasons. We can come back to that. And so even though it doesn't help Ukraine, he was thinking, Well, the longer the war goes on, the more the Russian military is weakened, and that is good for American interests. Also good for Israeli interests. Here, let me just quickly explain that and I'll get back to the core issue. So Russia was helping both the Syrian government and the Iranian government. Okay, now you can say, hey, that's bad. And Russia's invasion of Ukraine is terrible, right? But because Russia is bogged down in Ukraine, they didn't have the extra support for Syria and Iran. And so Israel, being thrilled with that, took out the Syrian regime while Russia was preoccupied in Ukraine. And then they obliterated Iran's air force and air defenses while Russia could not help them. So both American and Israeli interests are for as long a war as you could possibly want. When I say American interests, I don't mean the American people. I mean the American government and the bureaucracy and the military-industrial complex, et cetera. They're all thrilled with this war and they want it to go on forever. I do not, okay? I want it to end, and so since Trump is at least trying to end the war, I give him credit for that, and I don't think he's lying about that. He's clearly trying to end it. So no, period. He's more correct on this. Okay, now, but what should we do? Okay, like when you break down the talking points of the people who say support Ukraine further, right, with more military, et cetera. They always use an appeasement point. That's useless. That doesn't mean anything. Dave Smith's right about that. If you say appeasement, anytime there's negotiations, you'd never get to peace, okay? Number two, he says, oh, he's a dictator. And we didn't show you this part, but Dave made a great point. He said, what do you mean? We support dictators all across the world. Of course we do. And who do you think runs Saudi Arabia? They're dictators, right? And we love the Saudis. Not the American people. American politicians, both Biden and Trump, kissing Saudi ass 24/7, right? I mean, Netanyahu's a dictator. He's the prime minister of Israel, but he's the dictator of the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, and we sent him endless money. So that's a garbage talking point, not true at all. In fact, if you're a democratically elected leader, sometimes we'll do a coup against you and put a dictator in. So please spare us the nonsense talking points, right? So in terms of sanctions, oh my God. Guys, sanctions work when is a situation like South Africa or Israel. Why? Not because of the racism or the apartheid or the occupation. No, it's because there's dispersed power, right? There's a great number of business interests, and if you hurt the business interests, then sanctions have a chance at working. Also true in Egypt, where part of the reason Mubarak went down is they did a general strike, and it hurt business interests enough that they deposed him. Later, they brought back a clone of Mubarak, but that kind of economic sanctions works in an area not controlled by a dictator. So when, ironically, that brother says, oh, you don't understand Putin. Putin is a dictator. That's why we should do sanctions. You're not educated. Sorry, brother, but you're not educated. Sanctions don't work on dictators. Sanctions work when there's diverse business interests that can all be moved at the same time, so they create pressure up top. So this is a situation where sanctions are honestly never going to work because Putin has that country on lockdown. And he says, oh, you don't understand because this is about Putin's survival. No, it's not. That's true of Netanyahu. If he ends the war, he might have to go to jail, right? So it's about his survival, literally. In the case of Putin, he's polling at 80% in Russia. What are you talking about, survival? So it's just like all the talking points are garbage, okay? But at the same time, we did say to Ukraine, hey, if you get rid of your nukes, we will defend you. They got rid of their nukes, and so now we're saying, well, we defended you for a while, but now it's getting kind of expensive and annoying, so maybe good luck with the Russians. I can't stomach it. I can't stomach it. What I want is, for God's sake, let's drive as hard as we can towards peace, right? So I agree with the negotiations. I do agree that if you cut off the military aid and weapons now, that does not give you extra leverage in the negotiations, and you do need leverage in the negotiations. But on the other hand, if I tell folks in Washington, don't cut off the weapons yet, they'll take that as a green light to send weapons till the end of time. Military-industrial complex gets paid. Israel's thrilled. The American intelligence agencies and militaries, et cetera, are thrilled. So we're in this quandary we can't get out of. So the bottom line is, and here, one note from one of our members on TYT.com, Police at White House says, my unpopular opinion is to give Ukraine their nukes back. So I think it was No Math Dragon that originally came up with that idea on Twitch. But so our members have talked about that a couple times. I really like the idea, not to actually give them their nukes back, but to threaten Russia with giving Ukraine their nukes back, because we say, hey, listen, we don't want to spend money on it anymore, right? So, but they got a right to defend themselves, and we took their best ability to defend themselves away from them, which is nukes. So why don't we give them back? And then my guess is Russia will be like, wait, hold on. Let's get back to the negotiations. Yeah, that's what I thought. So that's why I like that, but I don't think even Trump's gonna threaten to do that. So then that leaves us with what Zelenskyy was saying at the end, which is, it sounded like he was being realistic there. He said, if you are talking about territorial concessions, then we have to have security guarantees. Okay, so that means that he is partly open to some territorial concessions. Okay, I hate it because Russia invaded. It's not fair to the Ukrainians, but if their leader is open to that, let's go, let's make that happen. Make a deal that the Ukrainians can live with and the Russians can live with, so we're not constantly funding this and that the war is not continuing to kill people on both sides.
Yeah, I mean, it really does feel like such a waste. And I understand why Zelenskyy would be in a position to make a concession of the land or even of the Ukrainian resources. But at this point, he has to look out for his people. He has been this whole time. But if there was a possibility to just end the slaughter, he's obviously going to want to do that. It's just like, what was it all for? At the end of all of this, after, again, nearly 4 years of this, Russia will have gained a little bit of land, and like, did you need it? Did you need it that badly? But you're absolutely right, Cenk. None of this stuff exists in a vacuum, right? None of these conflicts are as simple as they try to tell you they are. And I don't mean to be like, oh, there's nuance and it's too complicated to make sense of, so our hands are tied and we just have to do nothing. I just mean that in a historical context, and that includes recent history, the conflicts around the world are often connected. Sometimes you have to dig a little bit to understand how they're connected, but a lot of times you don't, like a lot of times it really just does come down to like old school imperialism and greed, right? And that's why like the Neville Chamberlain line, it falls a little bit short, right? I mean, that whole argument, just like, give them a little bit and then they'll be happy. That's not how power and greed works. And we know that, right? We have all of history to know that. But things are a little bit complicated in the sense that, we're saying that we're done giving money and weapons to the Ukrainians because it's just not working and we're wasting our own resources. It means that Ukrainians will likely suffer more than they might otherwise, at least in the very short term, until everything gets squared away. And no one wants to make that call. So what normal person can actually make that call? That's why I always say that it takes a really abnormal, like weirdo, like not right in the head person, not just to be president, but even to want to be president, right? You always got to look at those people with a little bit of a side eye. I don't want to have to make calls like that. I just want to save as many people as possible, regardless of how much money it costs. But unfortunately, that is not the way the world works. So
yeah, last thing, guys, I want to see the results of the poll. Can we pull that up, because I'm curious the way you guys voted. So should we keep sending? Wow, 85%. I gotta have my glasses. Oh, that's from the website saying keep sending. Okay. Look, at the end of the day, I think I agree with you guys for the purpose of negotiation, but really only for the purpose of negotiation, so we can end this war for sure. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.